Hi everybody, so this is a video for Module 8, Problem 2, where we have to go ahead and perform a chi-square goodness of fit test. So first of all, we have to determine the chi-square test statistic, which often they call chi-square naught, so you'll see the little zero on the bottom, the degrees of freedom, and the critical value, and then also test the hypothesis. So your chi-square test statistic and your degrees of freedom can both be done in one area StatCrunch, and then we'll have to use a different area of StatCrunch to do our critical value. So first thing is we have to open up our data in StatCrunch. So we're going to open it up here. And then you'll see that you have your outcome, your observed, and your expected. You're going to go to Stat, go down to Goodness of Fit, and then to chi-square test. And here you just have to choose the correct column. So our observed column is marked observed already, and our expected column is marked expected. And then you can click Compute. So if you look here, if I'm going to go back and take a look at what I need, the test statistic, you're going to find here the chi-square test statistic. So my test statistic will be 0.25. So I'm just going to type that in so we can see the rest of the problem here. Okay, then we need the degrees of freedom. And if you look over here, that gives you your degrees of freedom as well. And this happens to have 3 degrees of freedom. So we'll type that in here too. Okay, now to find your critical value, we're going to have to go into the chi-square calculator in order to find that. So you're going to press Stat, Calculators, and then go to chi-square. Now when you do your chi-square goodness of fit test, you'll have to put in your degrees of freedom, so we know that that was 3. And we also want our rejection mean is always going to be the one to the right. So to do that rejection range, you need to change your symbol from a less than symbol to a greater than symbol. And over here is where you're going to put alpha. So we want the area in this tail to be 0.05 because that was our alpha. And once you change that, here is where we see our statistic here. Okay, so 7.81, I think they wanted how many decimal places here. Our critical value is 3 decimal places, so 7.815. So we'll type in 7.815. Now, when it comes to whether to reject or do not reject the null hypothesis, there are 2 ways to do this. So remember, if you're working with the p-value test is if the p is low, then the null must go. But they're asking us to use instead our test statistic here. So you basically want to see if your test statistic, which is this one here, falls in your rejection region. So if I look at my graph here, our test statistic was 0.25, and 0.25 is way over here. It's not falling in that red region. It's not above that 7.81. So we will fail to reject H dot if it's not in the rejection region. So we'll say no, because chi-square naught, which is our test statistic, is less than or equal to chi-square 0.05. Okay, and that's how you do problem 2. Let me know if you have any more questions.